There's that little alcohol stove burning just on its own. Hello YouTube, Darren from Intrepid Survivalist here. What I want to talk about today is my favorite alcohol stove of all time. A lot of people call it the Fancy Feast stove because they're made out of Fancy Feast cat food cans. Before I get started, I just want to say though that use these at your own risk. I mean, I can't be responsible for your lack of knowledge or ignorance or what may happen with these things. Let's face it, we're dealing with the flammable alcohol inside of an open container that is on fire. So always make sure you have a stable base to set them on. Make sure you don't tip them over. Never use them indoors. What else? Never add fuel to them while they're burning or even hot, because alcohol has a very low flash point. You want to make sure you can hold it in your hand before you add more fuel to them. So be very careful with them, and like I say, use them at your own risk. What we burn in these things, some people, now I can't speak to the health issues or dangers in using this, but I do know a lot of people use this heat. It's methyl alcohol. It's you can pick it up at automotive stores, Walmarts, places of that nature, and it does burn very well, and it works good as a fuel in these. I prefer denatured alcohol. You know, it says right on it, clean burning fuel. This is what a lot of the professionally built or commercially built marine stove use and stuff. It even says right on it, uses a fuel for marine stoves, produces a hot, clean, odorless, smokeless flame, and alcohol stoves and alcohol burning appliances. So when I can get my hands on this is what I use. You can pick it up in the paint section usually of most hardware stores. So anyway, there's several alcohol stoves out there. There's a lot of videos on YouTube here of people making different stoves, penny stoves and things of that nature. I've built those penny stoves. I've thrown them all away. I don't have any to show you, but I will show you a couple other options. One is the Trangia. This is a store-bought stove. For lack of a better term, I call it a jet style stove because you put your alcohol in it, and once it heats up, the flames will start coming out these holes. Here's a homemade Fancy Feast one that you simply put the alcohol in here. You wait for it to get hot, set your pot on it, and the flames will come out these holes. There's problems with these guys. One is they don't like to work in cold weather. When your alcohol is cold, or your stove is cold, or your pot you set on it's cold, it really either puts out or knocks down the flame. You got to wait for everything to get hot. If you're in real cold environments, you have to put the stove in your pocket for a while along with the alcohol to warm it up. So while these jet style stoves have been around a long time, I'm not that big a fan of them per se. Plus they carry some weight. Now this guy's light, and the penny stoves, they're made out of beer cans, so they're light, but this Trangia carries a little bit of weight to it. Let's see if I can clear you a space here. Yeah, it's 5.1 ounces. So my chandelier light's throwing a glare on the. But anyway, so, and that's without the lid and the flame reducer. This is one nice feature about a Trangia, is it's got a device that you can open and close to make your stove hotter or cooler. So that's, as you can see by how clean it is, I've never really used it. But when I go on the trail, I usually don't even take it. I just take this one cover here. So, but it's a good old standby, even though it is a little heavier. Now this plain Fancy Feast can is 1/10 of an ounce. I mean, this thing weighs nothing, but it's very inefficient. For boiling 2 cups of water at sea level where I live in about 80-degree weather, it takes about 10 to 12 minutes to boil 2 cups of water. Enter the Fancy Feast can. This has become my favorite stove. Usually comes in right at 1 ounce. That one's 1 ounce. This one's 1 ounce. Yeah, they come in right at 1 ounce. So what I want to do is go over how to build these guys. What you're going to need for materials is a 6 ounce tomato paste can and a 3 ounce, I think they are. Now it doesn't have to be Fancy Feast. There's other cat food manufacturers. They're aluminum. These are steel. But it's the smaller size of cat food can with the pop top on them. Tools you're gonna need. Oh, another piece of material you're gonna need. You're gonna need, what makes these stoves work is there's a wick in them. This black material here actually soaks up the alcohol and brings it up to here. So these stoves don't have the inherent problem of needing to be warm to work. The wick is what burns. They light pretty much instantly. They work in pretty much any weather. I mean, down to 0, even negative temperatures, they just work great. And at 1 ounce, I mean, it's hard to beat them. And they don't need a separate pot stand. They're their own pot stand. So that's nice. It's simply ready to go. Now, this black material that's in here is some of this stuff. It's called carbon felt. You can get it from several places, several ways. I just ran into the big box store and grabbed it. They're about 15, 16 bucks. This one's made by Odie. It's 9 by 12 inches, which you can make several of these stoves out of this one piece. And what they are is they're a heat shield used by welders and plumbers and things of that nature. So if you're soldering pipe up against the back of drywall, you can put this between where you're soldering and the drywall. You won't catch your drywall on fire. It's flame retardant or resistant material. It's just black felt for all intents and purposes, is what it looks like, but it is fireproof. Anyway, up to 2,500 degrees. Now, to make these, like I say, cat food can, tomato paste can, and some of this here felt. Some guys like to come in here and grind off the sharp edge, which I've done in this one, to make their stove. I don't like to do that. I like to leave my sharp edge in there because it helps hold this felt in. I've seen other guys have these stoves where they can pull theirs apart real easy. For me, that holds this all together. So, and then there's ridges in the tomato paste can. I will pull this one apart. There. There's ridges here in the tomato paste can that help hold everything together. Now, so what you're going to need to do is open your tomato paste can, clean it out, cat food can, clean it out. And then for tools, we're going to need, you can use a hole punch or a drill, a pair of scissors, something to measure with, a couple of Sharpies, silver for writing on the black and black for writing on the can. But open your can, and then I like to take the open end, put it inside. You want this thing about 1 inch taller. This one's a little over 1 inch. This one's probably right at 1 inch. Yeah, right at 1 inch. Above the can, and make a mark. Now, I've heard people cutting these with scissors and whatnot. I don't know that I'd want to use my scissors for that. I cut mine with a Dremel tool. One of the most important things when you're cutting, though, is cut this thing level. You don't want this in here all cocked sideways and then have your pot leaning and everything. So cut it as level as you possibly can. Next thing you're going to want to do is take a hole puncher and punch, or if you don't have a hole puncher, what you could do before you cut it, drill some 1/4 inch holes around it. But you go halfway up the hole punch hole and punch it. What this does is when this is sitting down in here, it allows the alcohol to get to that felt and get sucked up. Now, the other thing you need to do is punch at least 1 hole near the top, because what happens is once you put your pot on here and this thing starts heating up, it builds up pressure in this chamber right here, and if you don't have these holes, it'll push the alcohol up past the felt and out, and just you'll have fire going everywhere. So you need to make holes near the top. This is the first one I built, and I punched 2 big holes, but when this thing gets real hot, I've noticed it starts shooting flames, rather large flames, out these 2 holes on this side. If I kept using this one, I'd probably punch 2 more, and maybe it'd reduce the size of the flame and I'd have 4 of them. But I just built another one, and I drilled 4 itty bitty holes. So, because I want the bulk of my flame to be coming out of here. Downside to these stoves, they're very hot. They will boil 2 cups of water in anywhere from 5 to 6.5 minutes at sea level. In around 80-degree temperature. So the colder it gets, the longer it's going to take. The colder your water is, the longer it's going to take. But they're one of the faster stoves I've seen out there as far as alcohol stoves go. And like I say, they are all weather. They work great in all conditions. So anyhow, get this cut, get your holes punched here, get your holes punched there. That's your inside done. The outside, there's usually glue that holds the label on. I just clean that off, and then it's pretty much ready to go. Then you're going to want to cut a strip of this stuff. I like my felt to stick up just slightly higher than the edge. This one's a little higher in this one than I did in this one, and that makes it just a touch hotter. This stove's a little bit hotter than this stove, so you're going to want to cut that to stick up a little bit. We're talking about 1.5 inches of fabric. And then you take your strip of 1.5 inches of fabric and you wrap it around this guy to get your length and cut it. Try to cut it a little bit long. The more you use this, the more this stuff shrinks up, and it'll start developing a gap in here. So try to leave it a little bit long if you can. The pieces usually end up being around 7 inches, 7.25 inches when I start. So, next step is you wrap it around it. Now you want it to be down around these holes so it can suck up the alcohol. And when these things are new and this fabric is still bulky and all, these are difficult to get, a little bit difficult to get in here. This one will go probably right back together. But when you first build them and you're trying to get all this in here, best thing I found is get them just started and then start pushing them in with a butter knife all the way around and easing this can in, turn it, and just keep working it and you'll get it down in there. And as you can see, I've got probably 1/8 to a 3/16 of an inch maybe sticking up above the edge of the can. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's assembled. That's how it works. You dump your alcohol in here, wait a second, or you can tilt it a little bit and you'll see it soak up to the top. I want to speak to how long it takes to cook with these things and what I typically use. A lot of my trail meals are I'll bring boil type meals, pre-packaged, freeze dried or whatever. I'll typically put a little bit less than 1 ounce of alcohol in here. A full ounce will burn for, depending on your altitude and whatnot, between 10 and 13 minutes. But you can usually boil in, like I said, average time is usually around 6 minutes. I get this MSR titanium Titan pot to boil water in about 6 minutes is the average. So they're very fuel efficient too. 3/4 of an ounce of fuel will cook my meal for the night. So that's a big advantage to it, how fuel efficient it is. It enables you to carry less fuel with you. Then you can light it anywhere. You can light it out here. You can light it in here, and poof, it'll get going. And then away you go. Another important thing when you're using an alcohol stove, heat shields help them a lot. If you have any kind of breeze, you really need a heat shield. I typically make them out of these disposable cooking sheets or baking sheets or whatever you use these things for, serving sheets. So if not, you can take some heavy duty aluminum foil and fold it 2 or 3 times, make it 3 layers thick or whatever. But punch some holes around the bottom of it with the hole punch to let it get some air. And I typically get it all set up before I'm going to cook on it, get it to the right spread. and then I can light and watch my flame in through here. That's about how I use it. It works very well. So anyway, that's how you build them. I hope you enjoyed my video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and it'll help me bring you more of this stuff. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Be safe on the trail. So I let it burn all the alcohol out of it so it doesn't stink and leak and everything else. Always let it burn dry.